The Roundtable on the IH Sports Network. We are at El Rey. We are just halfway through. We're not even halfway through. So if you want to come out and join us tonight, we certainly invite you to do so. We have talked Oneida soccer. Now we're going to talk Scott High soccer as we're joined by Lady Highlander head coach Eric Henry. And Coach Henry, your team coming off a season-ending loss on Saturday night to Kingston, 3-0 the final. I know things did not end the way that you wanted them to because obviously you had your sights set on a rematch against Anderson County tomorrow night in the championship game. Talk about that game Saturday and then talk about your season.
That was everybody's plan going into Saturday was to be playing on Tuesday. And the girls were focused. We got up, practice Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. I told them, I said, I know you guys like to usually lay around on Saturdays, but if I don't get you up and get you out of bed, you're not going to play well. And so we had a good practice. It was crisp outside, and they all had their hoodies pulled tight around their faces. I didn't know who anybody was. But had a good practice. Everybody was there. We worked on PKs afterwards with 10 shooters and Bella because, going into tournament, always a chance that there could be that in the postseason or just in the game as well. And we've not done a great job of finishing PKs this season, but we worked on that. And, yeah, it was disappointing, especially for those seniors to not win, from the lights aside. That's one thing, but they fully intended to be playing tomorrow night, and I did too. But Kingston came out, kind of put about 3 white jerseys on Chloe, and we made a little bit of adjustment at halftime, tried to push more people up towards the end of the first half. But, we had looks, had opportunities, just didn't finish any of them.
Now, if anybody looked at a box score from this game, it was a 2-0 game at halftime. Kingston won the second half 1-0 in the 9 minutes that you got to play before the lights went out. You look at that and you say, well, Kingston won both halves. But it was actually a different game in the second half. Your team had opportunities in the first half.
Yeah.
But they really had opportunities in the second half. And
really amped up their energy the second half, that 9 minutes that we got in. Of course, the first goal was an own goal off of a corner kick. And, no one's fault on that. And I talked to the girl, and I saw some of the seniors. I think maybe Liv was talking to her after the game because she was tore up because she had, let one glance off over into the net. She was just defending. But it was good to see, a senior whose season is now and career is now over talking to a younger player, trying to console them that, hey, it's not your fault. That's just one of the things that happen. It was the kind of thing I told her, too. I said, you just got to position yourself better and do well. But, yeah, we were a lot more aggressive that very short second half that we had. But, we weren't tired. I've kind of eased back on our running and conditioning the last 3 years. We still run bleachers. We just don't run as many of them. We still run about a mile, just to get warmed up before we stretch and things like that. But we try to slack off as the season progresses so our legs don't get so heavy. I think that's what we ran into, it would have been 3 years ago, I guess it was, with Julie Butts and Abby and Tori and all those girls over at Livingston. We had a really good squad that year and just seemed like we kind of ran out of gas, but we played a lot of games too. So I've tried to adjust that so that as we get further on in the season that we're fresher longer.
Last season, you guys won just 3 games, and you talked about that a lot with your team coming into this year. You said that was unacceptable for Scott High Soccer. That's not where you want your program to be. Now, you only won 5 games this year, but it was a short schedule, first of all. We didn't have a lot of games this year. Had one of those games canceled that would have been against Carter, but you won 5 games. One of those was a win over Kingston, which was huge. But the other thing that I look at is that with the exception of a couple of games at the start of the season, all of your losses were very competitive. I mean, you went to CAK and took them to the wire. You played Alcoa and you took them to the wire. Those are 2 really, really proud programs, and you were right there with them. What about the step forward that your team took?
Some of the best soccer we played this season was over at CAK, and it was one of those, I think it was maybe one game that week, went in over there, and Caitlin fell backing up on 1 goal, went over her. So you look at that, it's 2-1 as opposed to, somebody sprinting by a defender that was, on the ground and shooting on Bella. But, yeah, we were in a lot of games. Some games we weren't. I told the girls, and that was kind of what I had told them the last 3 weeks. I said, guys, you have everybody, whoever's out there, whichever 11 it is at any given time, everybody has to play their best soccer for us to be competitive because that's just where we were as a team. Got great players, I got good athletes on the field. I got speed. I got people that can control the ball. I may not have a whole lot of depth, but everybody has to be on for 80 minutes because we play a lot of good teams. And when you play a strong schedule, that's what you're going to run into.
Talk about the seniors that you're losing, what they meant to this team, and what they meant to this program for the last 4 years.
Well, coming in, those girls as freshmen, Chloe got some time, Katie got a little bit, Liv got a lot, excuse me, and Zoe got some on the wings just because, different attributes for each of them. Zoe and Chloe really fast. Liv had great touch, and she could shoot from anywhere. I don't know. I think you were at the no, you were not at the Fulton game. She was about 42 yards out when she shot one over the keeper. That's a pretty stout leg for somebody that's about 5'4" not, and that's she. And then the goal kicks against Kingston the first match. I mean, she's putting them at the half line almost, and that's a long ball for a young lady. So Liv. With her skills, she has good dribbling skills as well. And I said, Katie didn't get as many minutes. She was a little bit more timid as a freshman. She also grew from her freshman to her sophomore year about 4 inches. So that was a difference for her. And Abby got some time on the wing. Abby Reynolds did. So those girls as freshmen all had minutes, and they were playing with a lot of juniors and seniors that had played a lot of minutes themselves. But I've told you before, it doesn't matter to me how old you are, what grade you're in, what your last name is. I'm putting people that hustle out there regardless, because at some point those people are going to be next year's squad, and so you have to get them on the field as much as you can. And while I always have enough for a JV team, there's usually only about 2 or 3 schools that have enough for a JV team as well. So even though I've got enough to play, we can't find anybody to play unless they're 2 hours away or more than that. So plus, against Fulton, some different teams, we had an opportunity to put those younger players out and get them some work. But as far as what those young ladies mean, losing 6 starters, that's going to be hard regardless. But, I do have some young ladies coming up that showed a lot of promise this year. And, there's things we'll have to work on. There's holes we'll have to plug. But I think I told you in an interview after the game the other night, as far as, world-class young ladies, you won't find a better much than them. And I mentioned Hugo, he's over there. He's grown up with those girls. They're all about the same age, and so I look at them more than just soccer players to me. They're a lot more family to me than anything else. So appreciating them, and you can't say enough about them. And I'm not going to talk a whole lot because Ben's just trying to go me in to start crying over here. So,
well, everybody needs to see that Eric Henry has a heart, because most people think you don't.
I know. Well, if you were there for the Fulton game, I had told them, we had the coaches meeting that day, or that week on Tuesday, and I called Tony Duncan and I said, how much would it cost our friendship if you were to make me these plaques by Thursday night? And Tony's great. He just kind of laughed, but he did it. They were great. I stole pictures off of Jennifer Reynolds' Facebook of all the girls, and so that was the first time we were able to get the girls their plaques, for senior night, and it was great. He did a great job. There were pictures. He put balls for each year that they played, so they looked really snazzy. And I mentioned that at the beginning of Saturday's game. I said, we didn't get to talk about that much on senior night. I said, but all you girls, first team, all those starters. Caitlin, Defensive Player of the Year. Chloe, co-MVP. That's nice. We have good players on our team. And so really proud of those girls and what they're able to accomplish. And I think those accolades speak for themselves as to what we have, because we have good players in our district. We got the Leander twins, one at AC, one at Clinton. We got a couple girls at Kingston that are just outstanding. And so for Chloe and Caitlin to come away with individual awards, very nice job for them. But I told the girls, to get back to my original story there, I said I had a little something to tell each of you as I gave you your plaque and rose. But I barely could get through just giving them their regular stuff, and I couldn't muster it. But I think Chloe was the last one. I kind of broke down, had to take my glasses off and wipe my eyes, because that was, you don't think about it, but 4 years, all of them played 4 years for me. And you go from June to mid-October with somebody, and I'm not, the easiest guy to get along with or the easiest guy to please, but I could probably count on my thumbs the amount of eye rolls that I got from those 6 girls. And I keep saying 6. Hannah Daggs had an injury; she didn't get to play, but this season. But those girls are top notch in any category, whether it be in a classroom, at church, community. It doesn't matter to me.
So going into next year, you're going to be replacing all 6.
Yeah.
So it kind of reminds me of 2 years ago when you were actually replacing, I think, 7 starters.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be a rebuilding year next year. This is a reclassification year, so the district's going to look a little bit different. Looks like Kingston's going to be leaving you and going down to single A. So it could be Alcoa, it could be Austin East, it could even be Campbell County. We don't know yet.
Well,
We've got to wait and see. But
I might play up if Alcoa's in the district, because the last 2 times that we've played them, I've got players that's been stomped and punched, so I'm out on those guys.
yeah, that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
And Phil Newport has
That's
been
no
talking about that
exaggeration.
for years
There's
as well.
literal
Yeah.
punch in the face and stomped while laying on the ground.
So what does your team have to do to improve to get ready for next June when they come in and the
We're gonna
offseason's
work
over and you go back to work?
a lot more on passes and touches. We did a better job of building the middle this year. Of course, we stacked another person in there. We only had one person up front. Most of the time, we kind of moved around with our lineup, but got to find the open person. We've got to find a hoss up front that's going to put it in the net. Chloe done that for us this year. Ellie has in the past, but I had to move Ellie to wing just because she's great at delivering the ball from the side. But Bella Sharp will be back in goal for us. She was brokenhearted. And I, teased and told you and told Bella, she said, what can I do? This is at the end of last season to get better. I said, grow 2 or 3 inches. You'll be fine. And while she didn't do that, she really came out of her shell over at Clinton and AC. She came out on the top of the box. And, these girls are full speed dribbling, and she's taking the ball off her foot. So that's a great sign for a keeper when she's not afraid to face anybody. And those girls are, the top scorers in the league. And she made a lot of good saves on them. So.
Okay, so to wrap things up, we're talking soccer, but let's switch to football. And I meant to ask you during the break if it was okay if I asked you about this, but I didn't because
sure,
we were talking
man.
to Greg Bond. So I'm just going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Because Rick and I talked about this at the start of the show. Friday night, Scott High, Clay County. You and the Clay County Athletics Director had a little bit of a heated conversation at midfield. Can you go into any detail on that at all?
Well, let's see here. Hugo, Caitlin, Ron Burgundy. What's that mean? Stay classy. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
I had some guys over there on the fence heckling our players, and these are grown men. And I went over there to, I already called. And the referee had asked me, he said, hey, you need to talk to their AD. They've got guys on the fence. I'm like, okay. So I called him, and he said, I'll handle it. At halftime, there's 4 minutes, 24 seconds left. And I'm like, that's probably not a good enough answer. Because at Scott High, we're classy. We handle stuff. If there is something wrong, we'll fix it, and we'll fix it right then. That's just the way it is with me and the way that we do things as administration. They just don't do that down there. They'd rather tell our fans to go around and not use the restroom after the game as opposed to saying, hey, guys, don't act like that. But, Whitehead asked me, he said, did it get fixed after halftime? I said, no, sir, it didn't. He said, okay, I'll put it in the report. There's just so much that I can do. I'm not on my field. Of course, I don't think we've ever had an incident like that at Scott High. We're heckling enough individual players out there, or whatever teams, that we had to call them down. But I probably made more friends down there than I should have. But I'm not going to stand by and let grown men say things to 16, 17-year-old kids on the field trying to play, whether it be soccer, football. It don't matter to me. We're not going to do that.
All right. Scott High coach Eric Henry. Congratulations on it. I say congratulations. The season didn't end the way you wanted it to.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you something. That win over Kingston, that made the whole year. That was a thrilling win.
It was. That was exciting. If you were there, it was just, back and forth. Thought we had it in the bag. Then we kind of let up a little bit, which that was a great lesson for us to learn going into next year. You can't ever let up. And get a golden goal like that, which, if you're not a soccer fan, you don't know what all that means. But the first one scores wins, and that's it. There's not going to be prolonged, move it back after, score a touchdown like there is in football. It's like first one, that's it. So it was a good win. We were glad for the girls.
All right, Scott High soccer coach Eric Henry. We'll step aside. When we come back, we're going to flip to basketball as we talk to Oneida Lady Indian Kelsey Pike.